A note. Following advice from work-life imbalance may lead to action being taken by HR, your family, the authorities, or higher powers. Welcome to Work-Life Imbalance, an advice show focusing on workplace and lifestyle issues. Any resemblance to actual advice, living or dead, or actual wisdom is purely coincidental. I'm your monstrous manager, Frank Eastman.
And I'm your lovable office companion, Derek Lewis.
Today we'll be talking about food thieves in the deep dive before we address some audience questions and issues from the internet. But first, the daily stand-up.
Before we do that, Frank, I got a question for you.
All right.
How the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well myself. I just want to double check. We hadn't had that heart to heart in a couple episodes, and I just want to make sure that your whole business in general was doing good. But you're doing fine?
I'm doing absolutely wonderfully.
That is great.
Actually, I'm a little sweaty. It's a little hot down here.
Yeah, the temperature jumped from like 45 degrees to like 75 overnight. So yeah, we're going to have like hella tornadoes tomorrow. All right. Health check over?
I think the health check is over. Thank you for checking in, though. That means a lot to me. It really, really does.
I'm glad. All right. Now shut up and do the daily stand-up.
All right. So it is apropos of nothing and completely random. I think I saw it on a meme the other day.
There's no way this could end badly.
I want to talk today in the daily stand-up about the smash hit toy of 1992, known as Earring Magic Ken.
Earring Magic Ken.
Earring Magic Ken. You should look up an image of this, but I will send you a link.
What are you doing to me, Frank?
Holy shit, he's in a boy band.
Yes,
Holy
he is.
shit.
So here's the thing. This was like the best-selling Ken doll that they have ever produced. And we will preamble up into the reason why.
Okay.
So apparently in the early 90s, Ken was not selling very well, and their focus groups with girls suggested that Ken was not cool enough.
I mean, I get it. Like, he really had no defining features whatsoever. Like, polo, chinos, random shoes, and that's it. Like, and I mean, no genitalia, so no fun could be had by anybody with that.
Oh yeah,
doll.
no, he is completely no fun Ken.
No fun Ken.
Well, so they did, the focus groups that suggested that Ken needed to be cool, and so they sent out some folks to research what was cool. In doing this research on what was cool, they sent some people into the rave scene of the early 90s.
Are you kidding me?
Well, the rave scene of the early 90s was populated very heavily by gay men.
Right, because it's the first time that people had, not been openly discriminated against them in a super strong fashion. So they're like, you know what, let's go to these parties and see what kind of fun we can have.
And so like his outfit apparently is like off the rack 1990 gay rave club couture. Like, this is 100% what you would have been wearing a couple years before it was actually produced, had you been an in the know member of the homosexual community. Now, if you will look hanging around Earring Magic Ken's neck, you will see a large silver ring. So this was something that they saw people wearing.
Oh no. Is that
In
supposed
the
to be
club.
a cock ring?
Yes, it is.
If there's an accessory, you ask what it is. Holy shit.
They just saw all these stylish guys wearing these chromed rings, and he's even got some extra ones on his little vest there.
I mean, just in case your buddy forgets his, I suppose.
And I think they had intended these to be like places that you could attach charms and things like that, like the earring magic part of this. But he was the best-selling Ken doll ever produced because when it landed,
Oh.
all the gay guys were like, holy shit, they made a gay Ken.
They made one for us. Oh, holy shit.
And so apparently he flew off the shelves.
Oh my God. I cannot. I mean, I can. Like, I know people and the depth of obliviousness that people have. But yeah, you gotta ask about the accessories before you just start mass producing them on a fucking child's toy.
Yep. They just thought it was like some sort of very stylish pendant because everybody had one up in the club. And, faithfully reproduced it. And of course they walked it back and almost immediately discontinued cock ring Ken here.
Cock ring Ken.
But the damage was kind of done.
Yeah, that you cannot close that box after you open it.
Oh man. This delights me in ways that I cannot express with words. Both the fact that, basically a, kind of a snapshot of the early, late 80s, early 90s, gay scene has been taken and displayed so gaudily. But also the fact that somebody in a boardroom got a memo, like in the middle of like 10 or 12 stuffy dudes, they get a memo, or like an assistant comes in. It's like, sir, I need to talk to you for a minute. It's like, Johnson,
what is it, Smithers?
Wrong? Yeah, Smithers. There we go. Smithers, we really don't have time right now. We're really going over these latest numbers, which are fantastic, by the way. Sir, it's just been told to me that the circle on earring Ken's neck, it's actually a cock ring. It's like you can just hear all the cigars fall into the scotch across the room, and people are
thrown back into their seats by the horror of it all.
Everybody just starts fainting.
They, as I said, they desperately tried to walk it back, like, oh my God, who would think that this thing was, some sort of perverted sex object? This is a child's toy. But it was just undeniably like they had just lifted, copy pasted, the trendy outfit of the day from up in the club, and managed to capture in that snapshot, as you said, some of the very specific gay signaling from the early 90s. Like, I looked it up just a little bit because I was completely dumbfounded when I came across this.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you're fucking with me. This is some made up shit. They did not accidentally make a super gay Ken, or if they made a super gay Ken, it was, completely on accident. Or every Ken, let's be honest, seems pretty
Right.
gay. Like,
Yeah.
he's a well put together man.
Right.
Like, they don't have schlubby Ken.
Yeah. I'm in love with this. Like, this is. I'm not going to say this is tasteful because it could be further from it. But
Oh, yeah, no.
But it is beautiful. Like, I mean, he basically has like a mesh pink shirt, stylish denim vest. Count them 1, 2, 3 cock rings, and a smaller one in his ear for his less well endowed friend. He's really got it all.
And the single earring was also apparently like a gay signal,
Right.
At that point in time. So like they just made a big gay guy. Like that's But I thought
okay,
that
so
that would bring a smile to your face.
it has, but I'm just curious, how the fuck did this come up, Frank? Like,
I don't
What-
even remember.
What
like,
corner of the internet did you have to traipse through to get this stuck on your shoe?
I know some weird fucking people, Derek.
I understand. I get
There's
it.
a reason for private browser windows. Where we're going, they don't have any roads.
Where we're going, we don't need cookies. Oh,
Which I'm sure it was on Tumblr. Which I'm not necessarily on Tumblr,
Mm-hmm.
but I know people who are on Tumblr, and so
Right.
I am given many things that are from the Tumblr,
Yeah.
and I
mean,
think
I
that's
had-
probably where I came across it somehow.
Yeah, I had my stint in Tumblr, years and years ago. If Twitter is like taking a drink of water, Tumblr is literally like turning the fire hose on someone. Like, it is just a constant stream of all things, good, bad, whatever. It just, all things are streaming directly into your eye sockets, and you can't stop it. And I realized that it would be difficult for me to keep up with that and make money. So I took my farewell quite long ago.
And have enough time between like cute memes and moral outrage to have a day job.
Right, exactly. Man, whoever found this, they deserve like a gift card to somewhere, because this is beautiful.
Yeah, no, I laughed so hard, like while I was looking it up, and I was like, this has to be something that I discuss with Derek, because I knew that you probably had never heard of that magic, which is the earring magic, Ken.
No, I mean, I pride myself on knowing a lot of random shit that nobody has any business knowing, but this certainly was not among them. And you have enriched my life in ways that I cannot, with words, express. So,
And see, the good thing about this is now you know about the earring magic, Ken, but it is I who have now downloaded an entire encyclopedia to my brain of random factoids and shit about early 1990s gay culture. Like,
Right.
not that
you're
it
gonna
is
have
ever...
to pepper that in occasionally.
I don't know how or where. Like, I don't know at what point 25-year-old gay memes are going to be in any way useful to anyone.
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think I could probably set you up with some sort of alley-oop at some point. I'll be on the lookout. I'll keep that in the back of my mind, that anytime I feel that we may be kind of at risk of doing some sort of tangential glancing blow against early 90s gay rave culture, I'll make sure to step right in it. I certainly will stop the bus, and we'll make sure that we get off.
Oh, God.
This has been a
jeez.
delight. Oh,
It is one of those just little nuggets of beautiful from the internet. But speaking of nuggets of beautiful, or nuggets in general, want to get to the deep dive?
Chicken nuggets. Let's do it.
How'd
Yeah,
you like
so
that transition, Derek?
that was quite good.
Yeah, that was fucking skillful. No, that was a terrible goddamn transition.
I mean, I was gonna give you a little bit of credit, but yeah, that not your best work, but it's fine. It's a solid B minus. Yeah. So the topic for the deep dive today, as our illustrious Frank Eastman said in the intro, is food thieves. Those rapscallions of the office that just go into the fridge and just start rifling around and steal your fucking food.
Those thugs.
Being a portly fellow, if I bring food to the office, it's for one of two things. It's either I found, I had leftovers that were so good that I couldn't leave them at home and risk, them not being there when I got home. I wanted to be the one to consume them. Or I'm on a diet, and just any old food around, from restaurants and whatnot will not do. So if I bring my food, you bet your ass I'm planning on eating it. And a significant portion of my day is spent thinking about it or planning for it or something. And
Derek,
lo and behold,
I've seen your on a diet meals.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know who would steal those.
I understand.
Like, I've seen that. You were horking down like 75 cubic inches of plain brown rice and 16, grilled chicken breasts. Completely naked and without flavor.
Yeah, there was a bit of time where I was dialing it in a little bit and went a little too far in one extreme. And the first couple of weeks of this diet, I thought y'all were gonna have to just wheel me to the to the ER because that was far too much food for a human to consume. Even though it was diet food, like that was on my meal plan, but for some reason or another, I did not think about the fact that like literal 3.5 pounds of food for lunch is probably not functionally good. But no, I mean, nobody commonly steals my stuff because I don't bring anything worth stealing. But for the rest of everyone who, you'll look in the fridge, like I'll go to put my meal in there, and you'll see, some leftover pizza, some leftover, Chinese food. I mean, you see a lot of good stuff in there. And, people are, if anyone takes joy in food like I do, if they put something in there, they expect for it to be there. And there are a certain set of people, bottom feeders that we may have talked about before, that for some reason or another, monsters, ne'er-do-wells, people that think that anything in the fridge is fair game, which is not even close to in the rule book. Like, in fact, like on most refrigerators in an office, there is a sign that says, if you didn't put it here, don't fucking touch it. Like, it is explicit that
typed out in Comic Sans.
Right. I mean, at least you notice it that way. Like, it does produce some sort of like visceral response, but at least you pay attention to it, so that's good. But who in their right mind would actually look at other people's food in the fridge and say, you know what, that rule doesn't apply to me. I am going to be the one who eats this food. I mean...
Now, are we talking about purely like leftovers and or home-prepared food? Or are we talking about prepackaged frozen dinners?
I mean, I think it can be both because, I've had, before I started eating like a rabbit who occasionally eats chicken, I would, sometimes bring like Hot Pockets and stuff like that. There have been occasions where I'd go in there expecting there to be 2 Hot Pockets and find a lone solo Hot Pocket where someone else has grifted the other Hot Pocket.
What low down, no good, yellow-bellied son of a bitch done ate my second Hot Pocket?
I actually found out who stole that one, and I was not surprised. I was like, I knew you were a prick before, but now you're a Hot Pocket stealing prick, and that's just a different flavor of the same thing, I suppose.
That's a firing offense.
I think so. I mean, and we've mentioned me being a manager of some people from time to time. I don't know if I would fire somebody on the first offense, but like if I could clearly tell that this person was just unapologetic and was stealing food from other people, I mean, that would be a serious corrective behavior. Like you would have to sit them down and explain to them, like start from the beginning. Like when you are around other people, there are certain social contracts you have to adhere to. Let me name them all. And then we would go on and say, okay, of that list of social contracts, which ones do you have a problem with, or do you feel don't apply to you? Sit there, listen to them, let them say all the social contracts that they think don't apply to them, and then at the end say, okay, you're wrong. All of those apply to you. Next thing. I don't know. I would have a hard time, like, giving somebody too many strikes for this one. Like, once, okay, maybe somebody worked in an office before where where the refrigerator was just like some fucking Wild West.
I was going to say some no man's land where just anything goes.
Yeah, I can't imagine the chaos that would would ensue.
So here is, I've got 2 items for this. The first, do you have any good fixes for this, Derek?
Clearly, in my throes of agony over the missing hot pocket, and in other instances where things have gone missing, or I thought to myself, how would I deal with this? There are some fairly detailed plans. The first of which I think is probably the least abrasive version, is to put something in there that doesn't taste good. Put something in there that will just make them go, ooh, this is gross. Maybe some of that spray that you can spray on furniture to keep dogs from licking it. Just like put some stuff in there. The only problem with that is that I feel that people would just think you're a bad cook. So, only put that on stuff that's already prepared, like Hot Pockets and stuff like that. That would be fine.
So
now,
I could see, like, for me, I could, like, go in there and I'd see myself maybe, like, absolutely just fucking up that pizza with insane levels of hot sauce.
Right.
Like, just some of that unconscionably hot sauce. That
was going to be step 2. Step 2 is, something in there that, humans are not meant to consume. Ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper pepper, things that no longer are actually food products. They are not food additives. They are just literal pain incarnate. That is
shit
what...
where you're putting together your lunch with like a face mask and a lead apron and an eyedropper, just shaking hand, holding it out. One drop hits it, and then quickly you slam the lid down on it.
You can't let the mushroom cloud that comes out escape. Like, it's important that you keep that contained, or else, it could cause, bodily harm, but that's really where most of the flavor is, in that little mushroom cloud that comes off of it.
Yeah, no, that's the mushroom cloud of flavor.
Right.
But yeah, I would definitely want to use some hot sauce that would involve, like, they take one bite of it, O Fortuna starts playing loudly in the background as they make a mad dash for the restroom.
So that is definitely one that I think I think it would bode well if, like, you stood around and kind of staked out the place to watch it happen, because that would be hilarious to see, and that's going to produce some pretty immediate results. Now, the third option, and I will preface this. I should have prefaced this from the fucking get-go. None of this is actual advice, and if you do this, like, this is probably HR violations, and, like...
We've got two warnings at the front of this show.
Okay, good. We are double covered as far as this goes. The third option is laxative. I mean, that's a serious thing. Like, messing with people's innards, like, that's not normally something that that I want to happen in the workplace. I don't want anything that I do to cause, like, some sort of physical distress on somebody else. Yeah, this is not something I would recommend as a first offense. But
see, my other flip is the old canard of putting the laxative in there. Like, that's a known quantity. People know about that one. I'm thinking, what if you spike that shit over a long period of time with Imodium?
Okay.
And just give them the constipations.
So you're going in the opposite direction.
It's the opposite direction. It's a slow burn.
Ooh.
See,
I don't know how I feel about this. Because Frank, let's be a little blue here. Regularity is something to be prized, and and to take that away from another human being with a working, well balanced flora and fauna of the gut, that really sounds like a much deeper crime than making things work a little more quickly. So
Shit, you do this, and then you just walk by Janet's desk every day, slowly and pointedly eating an Activia. She's got no idea why. Just that apparently you really like that yogurt.
oh man,
Until later, all becomes clear. So, twisting things on its ear, have you, Derek, with complete honesty, ever stolen anyone's food from the fridge?
You know, my first instinct is to say no, because I cannot recall one where I have. But at the same time, there are certain instances where I feel you could get away with saying that something wouldn't be missed. Like, let's say that somebody has, ice cream bars or something, and they have like that, that Costco pack of ice cream bars. Like I said before, I do not recall doing this. If there are like 30 of them in there, I could see one going missing and nobody having a problem with that. But no, I think that's the only situation in which it can at least be overlooked. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of gray area on those. Now, my take or my normal strategy for this, because when being a portly fellow, occasionally I'll see food that somebody else has, and I'm like, that looks good. And occasionally people will be like, hey, I've got a spare one. Do you want one? So, I take the avenue of actually, building rapport with people. And if they happen to have stuff that's cool around the office, I'll go in halfsies and we'll have it in the freezer for, whomever pitched in. It's basically like the coffee jar, but like for ice cream sandwiches, I suppose. Obviously this is my former life where tasty things were part of my diet, but
as opposed to 75 pounds of plain brown rice.
Yeah. I cannot directly say that I was guilty. But I'm not going to say that I was never a starving college student. Like, there may have been one point where it's like, nobody's going to miss like 1/16 of this. Wait, okay, that actually sounds really bad. I wasn't like going into their Chinese food, eating a 16th of it, and then putting it back in the fridge. Fuck, no. Okay, Frank, you. What about you? Have you ever stolen anything from the fridge?
Yes, I have.
Oh, shit. Okay. All right.
No, it is a thing that I have done at previous places of employment, especially when I had like long nights.
Okay.
Where like I'm stuck at the office and it's past dinner time.
Right.
And it's just like me and maybe one other person in the entire building. And I've gone in there before and been like, man, I am hungry. I can't leave. Let's see what we've got going on in here. And that night, someone came up missing on like one of those Annie's bowls or something.
Right.
and on the other hand, like I've done that when keeping an eye on what's in the fridge, like just going in and out of the fridge with my own food.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll see it's like there's that frozen burrito that's been in there, and that bastard's been in there for 3 months now. Like, it is no longer even very good.
Right. I mean, it's a little freezer burned, but that it's been in there for a while. See, my problem with that is that I could see the situation where they leave something, maybe not something tasty per se, but just something something in there that is not yours. And then, they're leaving in there until a certain thing happens. We don't know what that thing is. Maybe they're waiting for that call from their child to say that they got an acceptance letter to some prestigious college, and as a reward for that, they had that burrito in the fridge waiting. And you decide to take that burrito that you so high and mightily assumed that nobody else wanted because it had been in there for so long. You didn't realize the treasure that person was saving. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a weak narrative because I don't know who the fuck their celebration would be to dig into a 3-month-old freezer burrito. But I mean, it could happen, and you have stolen it from them.
And that's true. And for that, I will probably have to pay with the rest of my sins, in the by and by or whatever. But no, I got no shame about it.
Yeah, at this point, if we're like counting your sins, I think that could probably, that's towards the bottom of the list of things. I mean, physical harm, other spiteful things that you have done that actually cause like property damage. Those are probably top of the list, but I think that food crimes probably not going to make it too high on St. Peter or whomever's list of things.
These are the stories of the food crimes unit.
Man, I would watch the FCU. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, for real.
Oh my God. Man, that would be fantastic. Like basically, like you just go in there and you see the coroner around like an empty hamburger wrapper on the floor. They're like drawing chalk around it.
All right, the detective's name has got to be Sunday.
Oh my God. Oh, Detective Sunday. Oh man, that would be so fantastic.
Well, if the whole podcasting thing doesn't work out, maybe I'll get into television writing. I'll pitch a pilot for the food crimes unit.
And I'd really appreciate that because here's the thing. There are a few things that make me like just really bummed when I think about them, knowing that they don't exist. This may be like the most prominent one. Like I want Law and Order FCU. Like
dung dung. Dick Wolf just sadly signing his name to the end of this.
Look, at this point, you know that Dick Wolf is not particularly proud of any one thing he's done. Like he's doing shotgun television production, and it's kind of like Stephen King. Like Stephen King, if you want to make make some sort of movie about one of his works, like by and large he will let you. Like he doesn't take a whole lot of creative control over stuff like that. If you give him money, he's like, you know what? That's fine. You do you. It's it's going to be based on my story no matter what. But if you fuck it up, that's your business. I'm pretty sure that's Dick Wolf's deal at this point. Like with the 45 versions of Law and Order that have been out there, chances are he's not had full creative control over all of them.
Now I'm just sad for Dick Wolf.
Look, I don't think you should be sad for Dick Wolf at all. Except for the fact that, I don't think anybody has ever made this joke at all, but I mean, his name is Dick Wolf. Like, that's got to be tough.
He is some sort of terrible pack predator.
I mean, he should have at least like cut him off the pass and gone by like Richard Wolf, something like that. Like
Rick Wolf sounds like someone who would star in a Dick Wolf production.
This sounds like a fucking WWE wrestler. Like, and here comes Rick Wolf. Oh, comes out of some metal fucking blasting over the speakers. Oh no.
All right, Derek, would you like to do an audience question?
Let's do it. Hit me.
I recently attended a wedding. The bride and groom cut the cake with an actual samurai sword that was passed down from when the bride's grandfather ran a POW camp in Japan during World War II.
Mm.
Am I right in feeling this was a mortifying, disrespectful, and tone-deaf act, or is it simply a way of incorporating something from her grandfather, who she was very close to, in a major way in her life? Sent in by Bewildered in Birmingham.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is tone deaf, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say that's fucking awful. Because it's one of two things. If people know the backstory, they think, your grandpa was a terrible person that imprisoned Japanese people during the World War II. That's bad. The second thing is they think you're some sort of like strip mall ninja and really wanted to incorporate your collection into the wedding ceremony. Either way, you are not good. Like, this was a bad thing to do.
Yeah, like, part of me is like, okay, I get it. It was war, and it was a very long time ago, and I can't necessarily say anything about Grandpapa and his decision to bring back some spoils of war.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, we aren't the
like,
fucking Huns. Like, you can't just okay. I'm gonna be. Feel free to cut this, Frank, but I don't think it's a good idea to bring back spoils of war in the 21st or 20th century. Like, that is barbaric as fuck.
Yeah, I don't. Depending on exactly what happened, if this was like I was in Japan and it was World War II and we were an occupying force and I straight up like stole some family heirloom from someone that I imprisoned, yeah, that's not a good look.
Because
it's like,
before you continue,
I went to
you're
the
hitting
mall.
on it. Like you're hitting on it right now. Like, that is the problem. This fucker may have stolen another family's heirloom, and now your wedding is part and parcel accomplices to this fucking crime of stealing an artifact from another family. What the fuck, man?
Like,
Holy shit.
I've read about situations where, like, really old vets, even up until recently, have, that some of the few that are still alive, because God, they're all like in their 90s and shit at this point, but even up until a few years ago, who had come back bringing things that they had essentially looted.
Right.
And then, like, getting in touch, trying to find out who this belonged to, and repatriating, these family relics back to the people who originally owned them in Japan.
I mean, that's the best of a bad situation. Like, you probably should not have like, fucking rifled through these people's shit to begin with, but at least we end on a heartwarming note. Like, I realize that stealing things in wartime is the same as stealing them outside of wartime. Not a good thing to do. Kind of a dick move. Yeah. Here's your stuff back that you haven't seen in 60 years. That sword that is in, your family's history. Like, it's written in scrolls from like the 1600s where your family forged this sword from the fucking fires of Mount Fuji. Is Mount Fuji a volcano or is it just a mountain?
I think it's just a mountain.
Okay, just pick a volcano somewhere near Japan and like edit it in. That's fine. But, like,
forged in the fires of Mount Doom.
Wait a minute. Wait, that's not what I said at all. Everybody knows Mount Doom is not in Japan. But no, like,
it's in South Jersey.
Oh man. Okay, I'm getting hot. Let's say something funny about this. Come on.
So here's the thing. What's the chance that this is not in fact some family heirloom that, was brought back? What is the chance that this is actually like I was in Japan not long after, like in the 1960s, before
right.
anybody around here was born, and I was in the military, and so I pick up this, what is essentially a mall katana,
Right.
and bring it back with me from Japan, and then I start telling everybody that, like, this is some treasured object that I picked up during the war
Right.
20 years ago.
I mean, I would say decent chance. Like, it's been a long time since, like, the Edo or like feudal Japan and things like that, like where, there were actual people who, would defend their families with melee weapons of some sort. Like, it's been a long time, and I don't think there are probably a lot of those swords around, and if they are, they're probably in a museum at this point. So my guess is that, yeah, he was either stationed around Japan, like near that time period, like you said, before anybody that would have cared was alive, and just like picked it up the 5 and dime, got himself a family heirloom.
And that's like, it's difficult to make any sort of determination there. I don't know. Like, I don't see, just because, all right, here's me. Like, there is the whole possibly politically and morally fraught element of using what was possibly essentially spoils of war,
right,
in my wedding ceremony. And then flip side, part 2, there is, who the fuck other than a gigantic weeb is going to be like, man, what I want to do is use the mall katana to cut my wedding cake.
Oh my god. See, I mean,
you would have to have a disclaimer in the fucking notes for the RSVP that goes out for the wedding. The invitations all say, by the way, I'm going to be using my family's heirloom katana that my grandfather brought back from the war, so that no one shows up to the wedding and is like, okay, which one of these is such a gigantic fucking nerd that they decided they wanted to cut the wedding cake with a goddamn mall sword.
Yeah, that seems like something you definitely need to put on the save the date stationery. Like, that needs to be front and fucking center. That's a good point. Like, did they have like some sort of like, I don't know, slideshow or something, or some sort of like provenance reading before they did this to prove that they were not just like you said, just like fucking weebs that that wanted to karate chop the cake with a sword. Oh my god. Oh. See,
they had a slideshow beforehand, but it was actually just black and white stills from Kill Bill 2.
since they probably haven't seen the movie, nobody knew what it was, and they were appropriately fooled. Except for they were probably pretty disturbed as to why Uma Thurman was in it. They may recognize Uma Thurman.
Your grandfather was David Carradine?
There are bigger problems with your grandpa being David Carradine. He went out in a rather undignified way, so probably not best.
That's all he gets anymore. That's just like, I don't know how I'm gonna go out, but I just hope that I don't go out in flagrante de horriblecto,
right.
with just like, they come in and they're like, holy shit, is he is. I don't even think I could get my leg into that position. And that is for, like, whatever else that I did with my life. That's the last thing anybody ever knows about me. Like, you bring me up and it's like, Frank Eastman, oh yeah, that guy who died, insert terrible, horrible thing.
But I mean, that's just the shit, isn't it? Like, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Like, there are a lot of people, like, I mean, I'm not going to go out on a limb here, but, some people like James Dean. Like, James Dean obviously had a very illustrious career, and people remember him for a lot more than the way he died. But the thing that people start with is like, James Dean died in a car crash. Like, that is what people know. And so it doesn't matter who you are. Like, if you have any amount of fame, like, unless you just, like, died quietly at home, people will remember how you died. Like, Prince, Michael Jackson.
No, I mean, like, yeah, I guess to some extent when you talk about people who've passed away who were famous, how they died tends to come up a lot. But at the same time, I'm sure even then I would probably be the big bopper. I'm the other guy that died in the plane crash.
Yeah. Honestly, if that's like the most lurid tale that people have to tell about me, I think I did okay. Like, I don't want to go in some precarious position. Like, oh God, he died during doing what he loved, autofellatio. He died as he lived.
I'll be sure to speak at the funeral.
Please,
Derek.
write my eulogy. You know what I would want. No, okay.
Oh God.
But no, so yeah, unless there's like some significance, or some significant like going back through the provenance of this, like during the wedding, yeah, I don't think anybody outside of the wedding party, like the small wedding party, had any clue what was going on. And like at best, like, strip mall ninja Weeb wants to cut the cake with the samurai sword. Like, that's the best thing they could assume. I mean, seriously, what other things could make it okay to to slice and dice your fucking wedding cake with a samurai sword? Anything?
I mean, if we're gonna use medieval Japanese weapons, perhaps we cut the cake with a naginata.
Okay.
Which is the long pointy bit on a stick.
Right.
So
then
you can cut the cake from
prettier.
the other side of the room.
Right. Oh, is that the one with like the really long pole?
Yeah, the really long pole with the slashing blade at the end of it.
See,
the other thing that I can think of is if you're gonna do it with the katana, then you have to bring in somebody who is Japanese. Like, we're getting into expensive territory, like with the didgeridoo music. We're gonna have to bring in someone who will then wear the full oyori, and cut the cake that way.
Oh.
And I'm not saying it's going to be tasteful. Like, that just sounds tasteless as shit.
Oh, it does.
But I guess we could do it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's like a Fruit Ninja themed party, and like the wedding cake is like a watermelon or something, and they're like having to cut it. I mean,
now we've got two issues. One, the fuck with the Fruit Ninja. But then two, what kind of bullshit is a fruit-based wedding cake? Like, I'm sure if I were to go to the internet, I would find someone who's done this thing who is like, oh yeah, it's a completely vegan cake made up of seedless watermelon slices, and the frosting is entirely, I don't know, what the fuck do you use as frosting for that kind of whipped bananas?
It's a cruelty-free sugar.
Yeah, cruelty-free sugar and bananas whipped to turn into the frosting, and I get served a piece of this fucker, and I just walk out, taking my stand mixer with me from the gift table. Like,
it's like, you fuckers don't deserve this.
Our
God.
friendship is concluded. You served me this watermelon cake.
Oh my God. We are certainly within our brand to go at length about cakes now. But, wedding cakes are losing a little bit of the definition of a wedding cake is kind of falling by the wayside. Like, some of the new ones, like, don't even have icing for the most part. Like, they have, like, some, but, like, not on the outside. I mean, that's kind of like the way that I feel about sushi. Like, if I'm paying somebody to make me a cake, you better ice the fuck out of that thing. Like, I'd better have to get like some heavy duty construction equipment to get to my actual cake. Like, that's how much icing I want. But they're doing these naked cakes that basically have like a little bit of buttercream in between the layers, but that's it. It's like, you're just not done. Like,
that doesn't even sound good. Like, it's a naked cake.
No,
like,
I mean, you just stopped halfway through. Like, I paid you extra to do less to my cake. That's the same way I feel about sushi. Like, I love sushi. Like, it's delicious, but at the same time, I have a hard time. And I'm gonna get blasted because look, I understand there's a lot of artistry that goes into sushi. I get it, but it's funny to say that it's raw fish and I paid them not to cook it. Like, like you come on, come on. The jokes write themselves. No, but no, we need to have like a serious discussion. There needs to be a worldwide governing board that determines what really is a wedding cake or cake in general. Some sort of definition of done for a cake, because some of these I don't feel are meeting the definition of done. These were not properly quality assured, I believe.
I agree, but also you shouldn't cut your cake with a ninja sword
or the spoils of war. Like, don't cut your cakes with spoils of war, please. You wouldn't roll in like a fucking B-2 bomber plane that you stole from somebody to cut your wedding cake. You shouldn't bring a samurai sword that falls in that category either. Full stop.
I brought this young child that I took from the war.
He will now cut the cake.
They will cut the cake.
Oh my god. Oh. All right. You want an issue from the internet? Let's
do an issue from the internet.
We've been shitting on this person's family for far too long. All right, this is from user Don't Get Work. I've been working at my company for over 3 months, and I still don't understand what my job is. I'm an 8 to 5. It's an 8 to 5 office job, and I don't have a job title. I work mostly in a team of 8 people there, and they do all the work. No one has trained me, and I haven't been able to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing by reading through my employee handbook. Whenever I ask for guidance, my boss just gives me a very vague pointers full of industry lingo I don't understand. Most of the day, I just look busy in my cubicle, but I'm browsing Reddit and my email. I really don't understand what this company is and what I'm supposed to do here, and I think it's too late for me to ask, but the job is pretty good, so I don't want to leave. What do I do? And Frank,
you ride this motherfucker all the way to the bank.
You absolutely do. Maybe there is some time in like 6 months, 2 years, something like that, where somebody realizes that you are literally just a leech on the company. But until then, you just ride this fucker till the wheels fall off. Like, I didn't know this had to be answered. Like, this is clear. There are no questions here. Like, maybe you're some sort of consummate professional that requires that you're like getting better at your skill. Nah, fam. If I found some job that literally let me like sit in a room and nobody expect me to do anything for 8 hours a day, I don't know if I could turn that down.
But my question is, how the hell did you get the job? Like,
right.
You interviewed. What was the interview process like? Like, hey, want a job?
I mean, I guess technically we don't even know that they had an interview process. It literally could have been like somebody ran in the street and goes, you, and pointed them, and now you're a new employee of Bullshit Co.
See, I have a suspicious mind.
Uh-huh.
So now I immediately go to, why the fuck do they want this guy working there?
Right.
If he hasn't gone through any sort of interview process.
Okay. And why would you think that is?
This is another one of those cults.
Man, everything is a setup for a cult.
Apparently, I'm not the one that writes these things.
No.
I'm just the one that chooses to interpret them in the worst possible way at every turn.
So I'm going to describe a situation to you. And when I read this was the first thing I thought. So I'm going to describe the characteristics of this job. And I want you to raise your hand when you think you know what the situation actually is. So they have a job. They don't know their title. They just kind of sit around for 8 hours a day. They ask their boss what their job is, and their boss doesn't have anything for them to do. So they just sit at a computer, possibly some sort of computer terminal with other like-minded people that also don't know what their job is, and just kind of sit there doing nothing for 8 hours a day. Does that sound like a scenario that you may be familiar with?
CTO.
Oh, that's also a good answer, but probably not the right one. My thought is that he's working for a supervillain, because in all the movies, you see, these rows and rows of people sitting working at computers or, desks, and don't really seem to be doing anything. And I think that that's what he's been hired to do. He is one of the extras to provide some validity and paper trail to say that they are a valid corporation, and provide some sort of some sort of smokescreen to the IRS until such time as they can roll out their like moon destroying laser.
So I like this, and I'm all for it. So I think we need to get back in touch with this person and say, at any time has a costumed hero burst through one wall and then out through another wall while doing battle with your boss. That could be a pretty big giveaway.
Or your boss's boss, because it could be that your boss is also part of the sham and doesn't really know what his job is either, so he can't explain it to you.
Is there a big screen in the main room that has some sort of countdown on it?
I think that would be a dead giveaway. So I'm going to go with
giveaway too.
I'm going to go with no, unless like there's some sort of like a company party or something that's been counting down for the last like 3 months, something like that. Maybe they explain it away somehow, but no, if there's a big counter on the wall, I think that would at least raise my suspicions. But I don't know. I thought of like Hank Scorpio from The Simpsons, where it's like they hired Homer to like basically do nothing, and like he's like, this is a great job, but like, what are you paying me to do? He's like, don't worry about it, it's fine. And then he's a supervillain. But that's probably
a very likely scenario at this point.
I mean, the thing is, like, if you think about it, even if it was revealed to you that you were working for a supervillain, like, until shit hit the fan, like, would that necessarily bother you? Like, as long as the supervillain wasn't, like, planning on killing a bunch of people, are there, like, some gray areas that you could be okay with? Like, obviously you are not the right person to ask, because there may be nothing off your table. Like, everything may be fair game.
Like, is there any way that I can find some upward mobility in this organization? Where do I see myself in 5 years? With your job.
Right. Conquering all of the Northern Hemisphere. Duh. Oh, God. I didn't think about that when I asked that question. So I guess I'll just have to answer it for myself, because obviously you're a real go-getter when it comes to being an underling of a supervillain.
I'm a self-starter.
You'd be the company that branches off to start a new branch in another hemisphere, so you don't interfere. No, I mean, I think there's some limit to, like, what level of badness of a supervillain I would be okay with having, because I think that supervillain is kind of a misguided term. Like, if they're planning on, like, we're talking chemical weapons or nuclear war, shit like that, yeah, that stuff is a no-go. But if they're just like gonna like steal from rich governments and give to poor governments, kind of a Robin Hood supervillain or type of guy.
I don't know if that's not a supervillain, Derek.
What would that be?
Supervillain robs from rich governments and gives to supervillain. Like, that's how that works.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some supervillain out there that's not trying to kill people, right? I mean, You know,
I mean, the only thing I can think of is if it's one of those Bond villains. Like, a Bond villain might be planning on just, like, blackmailing the UN or something.
right.
For several $1 trillion.
I mean, there's got to be some sort of kind-hearted supervillain out there that's looking for somebody with real no upward mobility goals. So if it's not a supervillain, I mean, what do we think this is? Like, do you think it's just like some office that has more money than they need?
The only other thing, I'm like, did you have to take some sort of blood test? And are you suspiciously the same blood type as someone high in the organization?
See, this. I mean, I guess this isn't quite like supervillain territory, but it's like in the ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, the best bet is just to like write a novel.
Okay, now we're talking.
I mean, you're pulling a check down. At that point, you've got an editor open anyway, so you look like you're busy.
I mean, this is essentially like kind of like an unknown or unbeknownst to your employer, they're basically your patron. Like, this kind of shit went on all the time in the Renaissance era. Like,
exactly.
You just pay an artist to just like paint shit. Like, don't even have him like paint a particular thing. Just be like, hey man, you're pretty cool. Here's like 20 gold pieces. That'll get you by for a couple months. Just go nuts. Like, do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think this is probably what it is. I mean, supervillain is high on the list of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Secondarily, is this person is just wasting their paid patronage.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe
they
that
could just be sitting there.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that is part of the process. Like, they can't tell you what your art is. Like, you have to kind of figure that out yourself. And you've wasted 3 months of their patronage by not figuring out your creative outlet and doing it at the office. Like, oh, now that is a terrible place to be. Like, just waste 3 months of, creative patronage that somebody else has, albeit somewhat surreptitiously given you. Maybe they should have.
By next week, they need to be coming into the office in like paint spattered overalls, setting up an easel in their cube, and getting to the actual work of being the painter that they always wished they could be.
See, I can get behind that. I mean, that's kind of a heartwarming story, all things considered. Like, somebody thought they were signing up to be some sort of like mindless automaton in some office environment, and really they were getting a job as like a freelance artist where nothing is required. It's just, hey, here's some money, go nuts. Like, that's a movie I would watch. I mean, I guess it's not.
I would like that.
I mean, it's not going to be a movie that I would watch, but it's a movie that somebody in Hollywood would pay a lot of money for. So like, that's cool.
So I think it's embrace this that you've been given, and enjoy your patronage.
Enjoy the patronage. Someday you will be in a history book as some sort of savant, the oblivious savant. Did not know that his career had started. Probably in the couple weeks after you posted this question, you figured it out, and now you are, our era's, Rembrandt or Picasso or Monet. We'll be reading about you. We'll check up on you in a few years. Boy, I don't think we helped them at all. I think we fucked that one hard. I mean, to be honest, I don't think anybody could get anything useful out of that advice whatsoever. But
probably not.
But as you said at the beginning, we're covered. Nobody should expect
Want to
good
punch
advice.
the clock? No.
I'm going to keep interrupting you until you stop trying to punch the clock. How about that?
All right.
All right, Frank. Why don't you play us out?
No, Derek. I want to keep going. It's time for a new segment on work-life and balance called And Another Thing. We're going to talk about stuff that pisses me off.
Anyway, Frank, would you like to do the honors?
Well, you usually do the outro.
Well, wait, I haven't let you actually complete the punch the clock line.
Oh,
Somebody's got to say
let
it.
me see. Just a second. Let me get ready. Me. Want to punch the clock?
Let's do it. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer on air, send them to questions@WLIcast.com. They don't have to be work-related, and at this point, they're pretty much guaranteed to make it on the show. You can also visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/WLIcast or on Twitter at WLImbalance and use the hashtag WLIcast.
This has been the Work-Life Imbalance Podcast. I'm Frank Eastman.
Ching ching. And I'm Derek Lewis.
And with that, I think we're going to have to transfer you to the Food Crimes Unit.
In the culinary justice system, food theft crimes are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the delicious detectives who investigate these tasteless crimes are members of an all-you-can-eat squad known as the Food Crimes Unit. These are their stories.
Bong bong.